I tried to sell Bitcoin for the first time. I thought it would take about 10 minutes. It took 3 days, and it surfaced questions I had not thought to ask before I needed the answers. Not because anything went catastrophically wrong, because the process of selling Bitcoin for the first time reveals a set of practical realities that almost nobody talks about until they are standing inside them. I'm Sats, and this is what first-time Bitcoin selling actually looks like. Let me tell you what I was expecting and how that differed from what actually happened. Because the gap between the two is where the useful information lives. I had bought Bitcoin through an exchange. I had been holding it for a while. I decided I wanted to sell a portion. I assumed this would be the reverse of buying. Log in, select the amount, sell, money in account. Done. The first surprise was the identity verification step. My exchange asked me to complete an additional verification before processing a withdrawal above a certain amount. I had verified my identity when I opened the account, but the exchange had updated its compliance requirements since then, and my existing verification was no longer sufficient for the amount I wanted to withdraw. I needed to re-verify, upload new documentation, wait for approval. That took 2 days. This was not the exchange being unreasonable. This is standard practice across regulated financial platforms in the US. Exchanges are required to comply with anti-money laundering regulations and know your customer requirements. Those requirements have thresholds. If you sell above a certain amount, additional verification may be required. If you have not used the platform in a while, your verification status may have lapsed. These are not edge cases. They are the normal operation of a regulated financial platform. The practical lesson: if you are planning to sell a significant amount, check your verification status on the exchange before you need it. The verification process is straightforward, but it takes time. Running into it when you need the money quickly is more stressful than it needs to be. The second surprise was the withdrawal limit. Once my verification was approved and I sold the Bitcoin, I discovered that the exchange had a daily withdrawal limit on bank transfers. The amount I had sold exceeded that limit. I could not transfer everything in a single transaction. Some exchanges allow you to request a higher withdrawal limit, which typically involves additional verification or a waiting period. Some exchanges require you to move money in tranches over multiple days. Some have higher limits for wire transfers than for ACH bank transfers, but charge a fee for the wire. I ended up doing multiple transfers over 2 days to move the full amount to my bank account. Again, not a crisis, but not 10 minutes either. The third thing I had not fully thought about was the tax event. Selling Bitcoin is a taxable event in the United States. The moment you sell, you have either a capital gain or a capital loss, depending on whether the price when you sold was higher or lower than the price when you bought. If you held for more than a year, the gain is taxed at the long-term capital gains rate. If you held for less than a year, it is taxed as ordinary income. I knew this in theory. What I had not done was keep careful records of my cost basis. Cost basis is the price you paid for the Bitcoin when you bought it, including any fees. Your gain or loss is calculated against that basis. My exchange showed me a transaction history, but I had bought Bitcoin in multiple purchases over time at different prices. Working out the blended cost basis took longer than I expected. Some exchanges provide a tax form at the end of the year, but not all calculate your gains automatically in a way you can rely on without checking. I ended up using a third-party crypto tax tool to make sure the numbers were right. There is a fourth thing worth mentioning that I did not fully anticipate: the emotional experience of selling. I had spent a long time holding Bitcoin. The decision to sell a portion felt different from how I had expected it to feel. Not regret, exactly. Something more like the specific discomfort of acting on a plan and immediately wondering whether the plan was right. The price moved after I sold. It always moves after you do anything. And watching it move in the direction that would have been more favorable if I had waited was the kind of thing that would have derailed me if I had not had a clear reason for selling before I did it. The clarity of purpose matters. Not just for buying, for selling too. If you do not have a specific reason for selling, you will second-guess yourself regardless of what the price does afterward. Here is the practical summary of what first-time Bitcoin selling actually involves. Check your exchange verification status before you need to sell. Verification requirements change and lapses create delays when you can least afford them. Know your exchange's withdrawal limits before you sell a significant amount. Plan for the possibility that moving the full amount may take multiple days. Keep records of your cost basis from the moment you buy. Knowing your purchase price and the fees you paid makes the tax calculation significantly less stressful. And have a clear reason for selling before you sell. Not a price target, a reason. Because the price will do something unexpected afterward, And the only thing that stops that from undermining your decision is knowing why you made it. Here is the short version. Selling Bitcoin for the first time is not the reverse of buying. It surfaces a set of practical realities most people do not encounter until they are inside them. Verification requirements can create delays. Check your status before you need to sell. Withdrawal limits may mean moving money in tranches over multiple days. Know your limits in advance. Selling is a taxable event. Keep records of your cost basis from the moment you buy. Have a clear reason for selling before you sell. The price will move afterward, and the reason is what keeps you from second-guessing yourself. If you want to understand the tax basics of Bitcoin in the US before you get to the point of selling, the video on Bitcoin tax covers what you actually need to know without the jargon. Watch that next. Stack smart. Stay curious. See you in the next stack.